Melvin Parker, Clayton Filia, Clyde Stubblefield, and Jabo Stark. And probably a couple of guys I don't even know their name. These are all drummers, the great drummers from James Brown that shaped everything that all of us do, that whether you dabble in funk or whether you're a funketeer. Maybe not just drummers, those rhythms turned everybody on. I remember the first time I heard Popcorn, I had to pull the car over. I thought I was going to have an accident. You had to smash into somebody. It was just too much for me to take. And so I am heavily influenced by those guys. And it's not like I learned what they did. I took the germ. I took what I heard, what I thought they did, and did my version of something like that. You know, that's on the funk side. And then I had played a lot of blues. So Sonny Freeman, the great drummer, I tried to fashion my shuffle something like his. It's different, but his was kind of the, my father listened to Wynonie Harris and Louis Prima and Louis Jordan, so all of that drumming, I guess Louis Jordan, that was probably Chris Colombo, Sonny Payne's dad playing drums on there.
And, I didn't, yeah?
Yeah. And not just the drumming, the music, the sound of the band, the way the whole thing went. And then the jazz drummers, Gene Krupa, Zooty Singleton. My mother really liked the drumming of Zooty Singleton, so we had Zooty Singleton records. Almost nobody has those. I don't know where she even found them. 78s and on the old turntable thing. Sonny Payne. Sam Woodyard, of course. This is all before I'm not even mentioning the beboppers yet. Belson, Louis Belson. Buddy Rich, Krupa, Ray McKinley. There was a guy, Ray McKinley was involved with a boogie-woogie kind of situation with Freddie Slack and some of these guys. And they play some knockdown, drag-out boogie that would bring you to your knees. It was so funky, man. Beat Me Daddy, 8 to the Bar, Down the Road a Piece, The Celery Stalks at Midnight. And I listened to all this as a child, and my brain, it's still right there. And then, of course, Roy Haynes, Philly Joe, Max Roach, and then later Elvin, Tony Williams, Jack, Lenny, whoever. But what I did on the funky thing was I never transcribed anybody's solo. It's very hard for me to do that. I mean, I tried to do it once, and it was just, my brain couldn't do it. It would take me too long. I mean, so, like the great drummer Butch Miles said to me one time, I don't know Butch very well, but one thing he said to me was, well, in those days, we all would listen to our records and you just try to do something like what you heard the guy doing. So that's why guys from my age group have our own unique sticking, and we don't sound like other guys because it's us trying to sound like about 10 or 12 of those guys rolled into one guy, and then your own point of view. But I took little bits of the mechanics of what I heard Philly Joe do, some things I know that they actually played, some phrases, Elvin, Tony, and I put them on the hi-hat. Instead of blasting them all over the kit, I did the same. I slowed it down instead of speeded it up, and put it on the hi-hat. I voiced it on different parts of the instrument, hi-hat, tom here, bass drum there. And instead of using coordinated independence like you do in jazz, one hand work and feet working against the ride pattern, I struck it at different time, like one at a time, two at a time on a different part of the set. So it wasn't the independence that we were all taught that was so important. Except, I mean, I definitely have some serious independence because I shedded all that stuff as a child. But then I broke that rule and started striking 2 notes on the hi-hat, 1 on the bass drum, a note or 2 here or there, and a backbeat wherever I wanted it, but still in the time. 2 and 4 are still in the right place. But you're not playing the 2 and 4. You're playing everything but that. And that's what I came up with. I just started doing it. It was natural. I didn't even hardly think about it. I just kind of one day went, oh, yeah, wait a minute. I got an idea. And it just came out. And when Paul heard it, there was an electric bass in the room sitting there, and he only played acoustic bass. We considered the electric bass a sin. We're jazz cats. You can't even have that thing in here. Hide it in the garage so nobody knows we even have one of those. And one day he went over and picked it up, took it out of the case, plugged it right into an amp, and told me, play that funky stuff that you do, that crazy upside down funk. I'm like, okay. And he used to screw around with an acoustic guitar and play flamingo guitar, his own homemade flamingo. So when he played the electric bass, he played just like what you hear on Actual Proof. Like, I don't know if it was the same pattern or the same, but it was that thing. Boom, right out of the bass case, first thing he did. And the first thing I said was, hey man, if you're going to play like that, we need to call a bass player. And I don't want to say what he said to me.
You can say we've already had to check the not safe for kids box on this.
Yeah,
so you can feel free.
Well, he mentioned the complexion of my skin, first of all, and it was laced with MFs.
Matt thinks.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and so then I thought, okay, well, he feels pretty strongly about this, so I'm just going to go with it, and that's what happened. That's just how it started. And then we would come up with a million of these things, never in the rehearsal room, always right on the gig in front of a bunch of people where we could play with no net. There was no net. We weren't sure. We were doing 5s and 7s. We didn't even know there were 5s and 7s.
Wow.
We were just doing it. But we knew how to make it work out.
Yeah.
So, because it was, if you were caught playing on the 1 and 3, you could be beaten. So it had to work out. Or you would be like, humiliated publicly.
You mean not turning it around?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. You had to be real super cool about that, or everybody in town would know about it. Hey, I heard Clark turn the beat around over at the showcase the other night. Did you hear about it? Yeah, I heard. Yeah. And then I'd lie. No, it was Paul. I didn't do it. Paul did it. Oh, really? Yeah.